Well, hello sports fans and welcome to In the Loop with Jake LaHoop. Here we are back to wrap up week 3's action, and what a week it has been. Major upsets, more broken records, and momentum shifts across the league. This week had some of the best football on tap, so let's dive in. And of course we open with Drew Brees and his ability to beat anyone and break any record in this league. And I'm sure that he can go after the most tackles in their career if he really wanted to, even at 39 years old. This week while hunting the Falcons, he was able to pass Brett Favre, who had 6,300 completions over his 20-year tenure, for the most completions in a career. And since it's only week 3, Brees is looking to stack that number higher than the Rock's cheat day pancake tower. Now, the closest active quarterbacks looking to top Brees' completion record, Tom Brady comes in at 5,693, playing in his 19th year. Eli Manning has 4,505, playing in his 15th year. And Ben Roethlisberger has 4,256 completions, playing in his 15th year. Now, some would say that that's a huge accolade and just be happy with it, but Brees is not. He wants the most yardage record too. He's sitting 417 yards behind Peyton Manning, who sits at the top. Now, Brett Favre does sit between him, and his record could be topped with a strong game of 315 yards next week when the Saints go marching into the Giants' house. Now, fun fact, the Giants are ranked in the middle of the league at 13th for passing yards allowed. Now, Brees might be able to top the master spokesperson if he finds a groove. Now, he's not one to play for records, but he could hold off on breaking this one for his hometown fans when the Saints play the Redskins on Monday Night Football in 2 weeks. I really need to find out what I'm gonna make. And now the season when Manning broke all of the records, he went on to win Super Bowl 50 and rode off into all of our commercials. Now, if Brees were to break all of these records and either lose out of the playoffs or miss them completely, would he come back next season? He already has a Super Bowl title during the 2009 season, which coincidentally came at the cost of Peyton Manning losing during his second appearance. But is one really enough for Drew Brees? The majority of his offensive weapons are signed from 2019 and further, so hypothetically he could play until 2020 with a roster relatively close to what he has right now. Le'Veon Bell comes into the second season where the Pittsburgh Steelers have tried to franchise tag him. He signed it last year expecting to be rewarded for a strong performance, which he carried the ball 321 times for almost 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. Not to mention the 85 receptions for 655 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns on top of that. He has better receiving stats than some receivers who play the role full time. This franchise tag is worth $14.5 million, which is what he wants, but with more years added on, because who wants to go through the process for trying to set your future up all over again this offseason? I have heard from a lot of friends and the internet talking about how that is more money than they would see in their lifetime, and they would take it in a heartbeat. And money is always a sore subject, especially with NFL players and the amounts that they see, but I'm siding with Bell on this based on the fact that he's one of, if not the best running backs in the game and should be paid that way. The Steelers have most of their cap space taken up by Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger, who they would not wanted to let go whenever their contracts were up, so it's hard to justify having more than 25% of the space taken up by 3 players. That's not the way to build a championship caliber team. Case in point, the Steelers tied with the Browns in week 1 and are now tied for the bottom of their division with said Browns. The point is, or get off the pot. These players are looking to secure their financial future, and signing 1-year contracts doesn't do that. Now, there are plenty of suitors out there willing to pay Bell for his services, and I've counted 7 with the cap space and 4 who are really suited for him. First, the Cleveland Browns. This one makes the most sense. They have a rookie quarterback who needs some of the pressure taken off of him, and it has become a hot destination this offseason with Jarvis Landry ending up there with a trade from the Dolphins. Now, the team signed Landry to the contract he was searching for and got a top 10 receiver in the process. The Browns have the most cap room in order to pay Bell what he's looking for. And his hometown is 2 hours away. And he gets to play the Steelers at least twice a year since they're in the same division, the New York Jets. The Jets also have a brand new quarterback they're looking to ease into the league, and Bell would be able to provide that insurance Darnold is looking for with the weapon of a checkdown. This is also the only team to reach out publicly about a trade offer. Right now, there are no terms on what the Steelers are looking for, but the Jets aren't known to make blockbuster trades that pan out well for them. And yes, I'm looking at the Brett Favre thing. The San Francisco 49ers. With Jimmy G injured this past week, the 49ers may look to make an attempt to sign an offensive playmaker. They have the cap, but do they have the desire? The Houston Texans. Now guess what? The Texans also have a talented quarterback, wide receiver, and defense, but are lacking in the running game. This could be the piece they're missing for a strong playoff run. They also might be the top contender since they are out of the Steelers division. Now let's say none of these work out and the Steelers want to keep handing off the franchise tag to Bell. Does he pull a Marshawn Lynch and retire this year only to come back with a team that he really wants to play for? This past offseason, the roughing the passer penalty got a facelift. Since the league has as much money in the bank as Scrooge McDuck, you would expect them going to a notorious surgeon instead of the one in the closest alley. That's super shady. This update has players on both sides of the ball questioning whether the league has taken safety too far. Now ironically, a Dolphins defensive player, William Hayes, tore his ACL this week when he attempted to keep his weight off of Derek Carr during a sack to avoid a penalty. Richard Sherman also weighed in on the tweet. It seems the Green Bay Packers linebacker Clay Matthews has been hit the hardest by this, with a record 3 roughing the passing penalties in as many weeks. And he went to the media to say a few words. Unfortunately, the league's going in a direction I think a lot of people don't like, and continued with a test of masculinity. I think they're getting soft. Now, we live in irony and this situation is no different because the latest quarterback to be sacked by Matthews, Alex Smith, came to his defense by saying, "I feel like he's playing football." Now, word on the street is the competition committee met this week to discuss the penalty and its punishments. And no word on the results of that meeting yet. What's funny is that there seems to be a pattern of Packers getting screwed over by officials in week 3 of play.
Is a Wilson lob to the end zone, which is fought for by Tate with Jennings simultaneous. Who has it? One guy goes up, touchdown. The other said no time.
With that recap, let's look at which team had the best offensive and defensive productions from week 3. Starting on the offensive side, we have for the 3rd week in a row 2 teams who had massive results and were in the same game. The Saints and the Falcons always set defenses aside to see which offense can make the bigger plays. The 20th matchup between Drew Brees and Matt Ryan, which is a record for most meetings between 2 quarterbacks, was no different. Brees has been connecting with wide receiver Michael Thomas so frequently so far that he has helped Thomas set a record for most catches in the first 3 games of his season. Now on the other side, Matt Ryan hit rookie Calvin Ridley for 3 touchdowns, which gives him 4 on the season so far. Now fun fact, Ridley has more touchdowns in his rookie year than Julio Jones does in the past 2 years. But let's see some stats. Both teams combined for 80 total points, 941 yards, 8 passing touchdowns, and no turnovers. Of the 20 matchups, Brees leads the series with 12 wins and 8 losses. But what are both quarterbacks' combined stats over those years? Here you go. Brees and Ryan have combined for 14,010 yards, 86 touchdowns, and 38 interceptions. Quite impressive. Now the best defensive performance has to go to the Detroit Lions for taking down Tom Brady and his prolific offensive weapons. Matt Patricia and his team held the Patriots to a measly 133 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 interception by Darius Slay. No receiver went over 53 total yards, including Gronkowski, who was held without his notorious Gronk spike for the past 2 weeks in a row. And no running back went over 50 yards. The Patriots' total offense put up just more than half of what Matt Stafford and the Lions were able to put up, 209 compared to 414 total yards. Now something the Patriots have going for them is that Belichick's former assistants have not favored well in the league. All but 1 have losing records overall, and the one to be different was Al Groh, not to be confused with the guy who invented the internet and former Vice President Al Gore. He had a 9-7 record, which means he only played for 1 season. So quit while you're ahead, I guess? Week 3 is done, and now we'll take a dive into week 4 and see what games should be the best of the bunch and worth watching. Starting off tonight is the Minnesota Vikings coming into Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The question I have is, can Minnesota get over that Josh Allen hurdle from last week?
That little steeplechase, getting up right at the midfield stripe.
There are 4 divisional games being played, with the 3-0 Dolphins heading into Foxborough to face the, can't believe I'm saying this, struggling Patriots. Can Brady lead a revolution and tame the Finns, or is another week in purgatory with Belichick on the rise? The Houston Texans traveled north to take on Andrew Luck and the Colts. And then we have 2 primetime divisional rivalries, with the Baltimore Ravens swooping into Pittsburgh to face the Pittsburgh Steelers for a Sunday night matchup. Your week 4 ends in Denver as the Broncos try to tie down Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, which we'll also be covering on this week's Game Day Eats. And you'll find that we'll be making green chili fries for that. So tune in Monday to see how those come out. You're in the loop for week 3 and ready for week 4. Make sure to subscribe and get the latest episodes so you have something to talk about with all of your football friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the field.